How's it going, everyone? This is the Strong Friend Podcast with your friends Lewis and Jack. Now, today we're talking about the subject of suicide. Now, we understand it is a serious and taboo subject, but we really challenge you, if you feel like you or a friend is struggling, to give it a listen. So please share it with anyone that you feel may be struggling, and please like, comment and subscribe, interact with us, and now we're going to get into the podcast. This week, I've brought a treadmill, and trying to get it from this woman's house to my house was just a fucking disaster, mate. Like, it was so... Now I've got that sciatic pain, so if you see me moving around in the podcast a lot, it's just because I'm readjusting my back. Like, I've used like this massage gun, but I think it's a combination of that and not having the gyms open. And because I'm not doing the weights like usually if I'm like deadlifting, it's keeping those muscles engaged, whereas now, because I'm not really doing that much, and like I say, the sciatic pain, like I've had shooting pains down my legs, and as soon as 2nd of December comes, I'm getting like a massage, a proper sports massage. Like, I need, like, the guy that does me massages, he'll put like his elbows in my hamstrings. I need like a hamstring and glute and lower back release so I can sort it out, man, because it's just been agony. But luckily I've got this nice gaming chair upstairs, and it's got like, you can move back on it like that quite easy, and it just keeps it going, man. And just... So
apart from your sciatic pain, how's your week been mentally?
Mentally, it's been sound, mate. Yeah, it's been, like I say, most of it's been on Black Ops, so I've just been chilling. But no, honestly, on a serious note, yeah, for most of the week, I've just been relaxing, man. I felt good, and I've still been dieting, but I haven't, since the sciatic pain, I haven't been exercising, so I haven't really been up to too much, mate. What about yourself?
For me, it's actually been really good. Like, really good. I'd say I've been more relaxed than I've been in a very long time. And a lot of people are noticing it. A lot of people are saying to me, "Oh, I can see that you're not letting things get to you for as long."
Yeah.
So things obviously wind me up, and I'm one of them people I'll just see red and just give it like a quick explosion.
Yeah.
But after that, usually I'd like, for instance, if there's something that was happened at work, I'd take it home with me. But now I'm not doing that. I'm just letting things go a lot better. And I think this podcast has helped me to do that as well. So I think this is probably one of the big things that's helping me just to let things go. Because it's like therapy. It's like
it is.
It is. It's like
not just for like people listening. It is for us. Like,
it's for us. It's mainly for us.
Yeah, pretty much, mate. Yeah.
We're like each other's therapists. That's what we are. We're free therapists for each other.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. And for me and all, like, it's good because I know, like, it's a good way to check in with myself. Like, I feel like accountability when you're losing weight or putting on muscle or whatever your goals are is amazing. It's so easy when you're like not in the limelight to just be like, oh, I'll just do it next week. But I know every week that there's a podcast coming up. So I'm like, right, okay, I want to do all that I can to look better. It was like when I used to work at Walkabout. I knew every club night that people would see me, and I wanted to be like, I want to look good, you know what I mean? It's just
do a water fast.
Mate, it was fun.
Yeah, so what Lou was saying is, if anyone sees him getting fat, just absolutely rinse him in the comments.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Just say, like, you've let yourself slip. But again, that's what accountability is there for. Like, it's not there to make anyone feel shit. It's just the truth. Like, I think we often make justifications in our minds as to, like, oh, I'll do it next week, or I'll do this. It's like, no, just get it done. And the podcast is such a great way to do that, because I can literally see myself as I'm talking, and I'm like, right, okay, you know what I mean? I don't want to come in, like, after we've had a break from Christmas, like an extra £20 heavy, like, sitting there like, hey. Right, up, Jack, how are you doing, mate? Had some turkey this Christmas.
Taking up the whole camera.
Yeah, exactly. But,
so today we're recording this on International Men's Day.
Yeah, we are.
No matter what you think about having international days for recognition of men and of women, there's topics that always get brought up around this time that we think it's probably a good time to talk about, to be honest. And Lou came up with an idea for this week to have quite a sobering and quite a serious theme. But I'll let you introduce it, man.
So we're going to talk about stigma around, and suicide. So we understand that it's a topic that not everyone's comfortable listening to. So now would be the time, if you don't want to listen or get triggered by talks of suicide, to turn it off. But for those that do want to listen, I really want to say that the stuff that we've got to talk about could be really helpful, because I know that Jack's got some personal stories that he's going to share with us, and I feel like, especially during the lockdown, there's various things going in on people's minds that, are sent. I know it's such a taboo subject, but some people may be thinking about suicide, even people that may be listening. So if this can help you, then I would challenge you to listen to it and just try and take something from it.
Yeah, because even for people that we're close to, even for people that know me really, really well, I think some of the things that we'll be talking about will be hard to listen to, and it'll be hard to get through. But
yeah,
there's got to be people that talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, because it's real.
Because it is real.
It's real. I know it makes people feel upset and all that kind of stuff, and I know it's such a horrible thing, but like Jack says, it's real, and I think it's relevant, and anyone can. Well, the thing is that no one's immune to these kind of thoughts. No one. You could. This is the thing about mental health, is it's interchangeable. It's never solid, is it? You could have some people a year ago that they were the happiest people in the world, and then a year later they've been through a lot of trauma, and then they end up with suicidal thoughts. So it's definitely an important topic to talk about, particularly around International Men's Day, but also for anyone, because it's both men and women that suffer with suicidal thoughts. And also, from especially people our age, it's so common between the ages of 20 to 30 to sort of be thinking about this kind of stuff, because I feel like I'm 26 now, turning 27 in December, and I feel like a lot of people struggle with the transition of being a teenager into an adult, where they think that they should have all their life figured out, and then when it's not all figured out, they get depressed. So especially in this day and age, it's really, really it's vital that we change the subject. Change the subject from being taboo to we can openly talk about it, because we all need to be talking about stuff like this so that it stops happening.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting point, because who was the first one to ever speak to you about suicidal thoughts? Have you ever even had a conversation about it? About like suicide in general?
Yeah, I have, because I had. Now I'm talking about 5 years ago now. This was when I was at my darkest, and I was going through the trauma, and I felt disconnected from reality, and I wouldn't say they were suicidal thoughts; they were more suicidal fantasies. So that was more. I'd go through my mind, how I would do it, if I would do it. But the thing is, with me, it was only fantasies, because I knew that I couldn't leave my mum and my family in such a heartbroken position, because they were already heartbroken anyway. So it was kind of one of those where I thought at the time, I really wish that I didn't have loved ones around me so that I could do it, if that makes sense. So it was all.
Well, let's just dive into it a bit. Let's dive into it a bit deeper. So obviously, you had, as you said, suicidal fantasies, and I've had them. Most people in this world will have them.
Yeah.
What were some of the ways in which you thought about not being here anymore?
Well, I think it's important to establish that the reason, first of all, that I was thinking this way is not actually because I wanted to die. It was because I wanted to just not be in pain.
Yeah.
So it wasn't.
That's a very good point.
But at that time, because I had absolutely zero coping mechanisms, which goes back to us talking about the fact that schools didn't teach us any, and then when we go through a traumatic time, we're fucked, because none of us, we're all in the dark, aren't we? You know what I mean? None of us know what we're doing. So it goes back to that really, but some of the ways as such, it was more. I don't really. You know what? Like, I feel like it was that long ago. I can barely remember, if that makes sense. Like, it's really, really difficult to reach in there and remember, because my mind's like, I don't think about stuff like that anymore. But I think maybe it was. I think for me, because as crazy as it sounds, because I never wanted my family to be hurt, I was always thinking, what is the best way that I can do it without it looking like a crime scene? And do you know what I mean? So it would be like maybe like the cold or something like that, or rather than, as opposed to cutting myself or anything like that, if that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, what were some of the ways that? First of all, no, let's start from the beginning, because I know you've got a massive story to tell, and I know it's difficult for you, and I know it's sensitive for you. So when did you first start experiencing suicidal thoughts? What were they, and why do you think that they happened?
So, I'd say the first kind of serious considerations that I took to suicidal thoughts and to just the feeling of not wanting to be here anymore were kind of 14, 15 years old. That kind of age, I would say, the age when you're getting towards the end of your high school life. That was the age in which it became a real possibility for me.
Yeah, so it's young then, very young.
It is very young, yeah.
From my perspective, anyway.
Yeah. And the reasons was, it was an overwhelming sense that things were never going to get better. And it was an overwhelming sense of despair, of just, life is so bleak, life is so just awful, that I don't even want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
And no matter what I do, the pain doesn't go away. So I was waking up and the pain was still there, the pain of living, just the pain, I described it as this, and I'm pretty sure I've said this on the podcast before. It's like you wake up and you're in your own little bubble, and gravity's twice as heavy, the sky is twice as dark, and everything around you hurts.
Yeah.
And that feeling, I just wanted it to go.
Yeah.
And the only way that I saw that feeling going, instead of believing that I could work it out, was to just end it all.
Yeah.
And the kind of thoughts that I was having before any therapy or anything like that was, oh well, I'll just jump off a bridge. That was my first ever experience of thinking about killing myself. It was, I'm just going to jump off a bridge. And this was at a time where my first coping mechanism for trying to escape these thoughts was to go on long walks.
Yeah.
And so I'd go on long walks, and where I lived, there was a bridge over an A road.
Yeah.
And I used to walk over that bridge during every one of these walks. Every one of these walks where I tried to get away from things, I would go over this bridge. Over the road is called the A500 for people who know the road back in Stoke.
Yeah, I know where it is as well. 'Cause I know there's a park where
you know where I live.
Yeah.
So that was the walk I used to do. I used to walk through the park, out, and then over the A500. And I'd probably stand and stop at the bridge for 5 to 10 seconds, and I'd just look. I just think, yeah, this is how I do it. This is how I'd take my own life.
Yeah.
And then it probably things then escalated, whereby I made that video that I spoke about, whereby I'd written all my feelings down, all my thoughts down on paper and dropped it. My mum got me referred to a doctor's, At that point, I was referred through Mind and I'd started the therapy cycle.
Yeah.
And that's when I would say things began to get a little bit darker, because I was getting a little bit older at this point. I'd felt like I'd made that step towards recovery, and I thought I'd done something, like, oh, I'm actually trying now, and I can't say that I've never tried, and I can't say that I've never given it a go. But still,
that's a really scary place as well. I know exactly what you're talking about, because I've been there where you're trying, and you're thinking, shit, like, it's not working.
yeah,
And then you really start, because I feel like it's kind of like with mental health. It's not like you can just take an antibiotic and the infection goes away. It's like, this is something that you've got to sort out, and it's scary. So, mate, I resonate with that a lot. I really do.
the best advice I ever gave you, and I stand by this, the best advice I've ever given you is that mental health is a journey. It really isn't a race. It really, really, truly is a journey.
Yeah.
It's not something it's not an A to B. It's not you don't just get there. You don't just get to a finish line. There's no...
Yeah. I was going to say, when I first started speaking to my therapist, when I had like the panic attack at work that we spoke about.
Yeah.
And when I first saw her, I said, in the first session, I said, yeah, I'm going to have this sorted in 2 weeks. That's good. Because, 2 weeks and I'll be fine. This is how the irrational mind works, man. It took me like fucking 3 years. But at the time, because you want it to be a race, like you want to be like, right, okay, this is shit.
2 weeks.
I can handle it. But that's what I said to her. Looking back now, that is so irrational, man. But yeah,
it's like, oh, yesterday I thought about killing myself, but in 2 weeks' time I'll be sound.
yeah, exactly. But then the thing is, it's a cycle, because after the 2 weeks, I set the expectation of 2 weeks, and then when I didn't feel better in 2 weeks, I was like, shit, and then it was like 2 years later, I was like, I'm still fucking here, what's going on? Carry on with what you were saying.
So obviously, like you say, when you get that first realization that what you're doing isn't working, I would say that was when it became real. That's when it became, oh shit, therapy doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's the narrative that I had in my head at the time. Oh shit, these tablets that I'm taking aren't making me feel better.
Yeah.
In fact, they're actually making me feel worse. And I got caught in just no one had explained to me that it doesn't always go right the first time. It doesn't always work straight away. You've got to really try different things, and you've got to be vocal, and you've got to say, no, this doesn't work for me. And you've just got to keep trying things until they work. But I just didn't have that. They didn't tell me that. They didn't advise me that. And the next step for me, I was in this despair of, I've tried to stick with this therapy. I've tried these drugs that you're giving me. I've tried this diary that you've got me to fill out, and it's not working. And at this point I was getting very angry, and emotion was just taking over. And what I used to do, besides going on walks, I started locking myself in the garage. And I actually cleared, because our garage was an absolute mess, and I cleared the garage out. I tidied it all up, and I just put one fishing chair in there.
Yeah.
There was no TV, there was no radio, there was nothing. It was just one fucking fishing chair, and on the fishing chair above it in the garage there was a steel beam just supporting the roof, just one big steel beam.
A strong steel beam, I assume.
Very strong, very strong. And I used to sit in that chair and I used to think, right, I've locked the door.
Yeah.
And this is where I think I could end my life. This is serious now. This is where I genuinely think I'm going to end my life. I've made it so that there's nothing here. I've made it so that it's just me in here, and there's no one here to watch. There's no one here to try and stop me. And I took So there was these. On the back of a car, you've got like a bike rack that you can have, and on the bike rack you can have like safety cables.
Yeah.
But they're like rope with a metal clip on them, essentially.
Yeah, super strong, aren't
they? Yeah. So the more you pull on it, the harder it fucking grips on.
Yeah.
And I used to make a noose out of those. I'd actually make them, and I'd hang them, and I'd practice where to hang them, and I'd put them up, and I'd look at them, and I'd just sit in that fishing chair, and I still remember this is how traumatic it really does, and it does stay with you.
Yeah.
I still remember the fishing chair. I still remember the colour of the car rope that I used to use.
Yeah.
I still remember the carpet that I'd lay down on the floor. I remember even the wood that I built to lock the garage door. It was just a little bit of wood on a nail that I'd just tilt to lock the garage door. And that really was a moment in which I thought, this is it now. This really is it.
Yeah, like a decision that you consciously made in your mind. Yeah.
And I was always saying to myself, the kind of thoughts that I'd have at that time is, okay, so you do this, and then what happens? It'd never end at just, right, let's do it. It'd always be, what would happen after this? Yeah. Who would be at my funeral? Who would actually care? And that's the moment where you start to realise, if you're having them thoughts, then
I think the will to live is strong, man.
It's the will to live trying to just convince you of otherwise. Because if you're having thoughts if you're thinking about what will happen after you do this act,
you care about life.
Then you care about life. You care about what other people think of you. You care about what other people feel, and you care. Like, it shows that you care. It shows that there's things in life that are worth something for you, whether that be the absolute most minimal thing in the world. You care about, for instance, you care about how when you walk into school, you'll never see this person that you always walk past every single day.
Yeah.
You think about one thing after the act, and you have a will to live.
Yeah.
And if someone would have said that to me, if someone would have said that to me at that time, just said, your brain is not ready. Like, you do not want to do this. Yeah. Like, yes, you are thinking about it, and yes, it is an option, but your brain is automatically thinking about what's after, and you want to know what's after. And unfortunately, someone didn't say that to me.
Yeah.
So I'd say a couple of weeks went past, and I've been going for these walks, and I'd found a new bridge that I'd stand on, and I'd look over.
Sorry.
It's all right. I'd found different rope that I was fully ready to commit to this.
Yeah.
And I sat in the garage, and I'd been there for probably about 2 hours.
Mm.
And this was going to be one of the times where, okay, I'm seriously considering it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I'm almost in a meditative state whereby I'm purely thinking, I'm just looking at this, and the garage door gets ripped open. It just completely breaks the wood, completely breaks everything.
Yeah.
And it's my parents who've been shouting me for the last however long, and they're like, so they knew I was in therapy, they knew that I was obviously thinking about suicide, and they ripped the door open, and they're like, what are you doing? Why are you in here on your own? Why have you been? And they just got very panicked by it all.
Yeah, I can imagine, mate, yeah.
That kind of set me back in a way that I was like, oh, this clearly isn't going to work. And so I'd stopped going into the garage. I'd stopped going for my long walks. I'd stopped doing the things that I'd been doing for so long.
Yeah.
And while I was at college. So this is when I'm, 17? 17.
17, 18, yeah.
While I was at college, something happened to me. And it was so it was the same incident with regards to a court case. I was reliving memories. I was having night terrors.
Yeah.
Even where I'd wake up in sweat. It was just agonizing to be alive. It wasn't just an emptiness at that point. It was a genuine agony of being alive.
Yeah.
And I took a handful of pills that I knew were very strong, and I swallowed them all.
Ah, okay. And what happened next?
So the moment I would say that I'd taken the water down and finished the pills, there was just an overwhelming regret of, oh shit, what have you just done?
Yeah.
What is about to happen to you? What have you? And I've listened to speakers who have done the same thing, who've done something that was just in the spur of the moment, and they all say the same thing. There's always this instant wave of, oh my god, what have I just done?
Are you talking about the guy in New York that jumped off
the bridge?
And he tells his story about how he survived and instantly, and the way that he speaks, man, it's crazy that like regret is like a word that's used in every single circumstance. His circumstance, your circumstance.
Yeah, and it's a real feeling, because it's a I've just done something. I've just done it. I've just done what I've thought about for the last, and the regret that you feel, that deep emotion of, oh shit.
Yeah.
It's almost like, oh my god, how would I? It's almost like you know, if you're on a ride in a roller coaster and you're just about to drop.
Yeah.
And it's that first half a second of, oh shit.
Yeah.
So that is exactly how I felt, and then I think just the reaction from my throat of absorbing that many pills and that much water, it hit my stomach, and then maybe 2 to 5 minutes later, I was throwing up.
It probably, you know something, what's interesting about that is it probably wasn't even 5 minutes. I bet in reality,
it was probably a few seconds.
Because that will to live kicks in and thinks, it makes a conscious decision or subconscious decision straight away that I want to fucking live. This is what I'm going to do to like get rid of what I've just taken, do you know what I mean? Yeah. But that's some powerful stuff, man. So when after you've done this and you've thrown up and all the rest of it, how does that, like, how were you feeling after that? Like, I assume you were shaken up.
I just felt shame.
Yeah.
I felt shame because I thought it was almost a shame and a hopelessness.
Yeah.
Because the hopelessness was like, I just don't know what to do anymore. Like, it was a true, that was the most hopeless I've ever felt in my life. It was the most I've ever felt of, I just do not know what to do right now. I think the adrenaline had carried me so much, and that always having that thought of doing it almost gave you something to live for. And it sounds so counterintuitive. But the thought of doing it is something that keeps you going. It keeps you going. And then the moment that you attempt it, or the moment that you do something, and the moment that you instantly regret that, it just... And if you listen to this and you've ever done it, the shame, the desperation that you feel, the horrible nature of that feeling, of that emotion, I wouldn't wish it on anyone, because it is a horrible, horrible place to be. And the only thing that dragged me out of that was I started to listen to those videos again that I spoke about. Those motivational videos, yeah.
Yeah.
And after that, I'd say it probably took until the moment that the adrenaline started to wear away, because it took weeks. It genuinely took weeks.
I can imagine, yeah.
But after that, when I started to feel like you almost get bored of feeling hopeless, that's how I'd describe it.
That's the beginning of the healing.
That's the beginning of it. You just there was a moment where I was just like, you know what? I've been through the suffering. I've been through trying to kill myself, or what I thought at the time as being so reckless enough to risk my life.
Yeah.
I've been through it all, and I'm just still here. Like, why am I just feeling like sorry for myself? Why am I doing this? And that was one of the biggest turning points in my life, because at that moment, I decided that I would never, ever, ever feel like that again, and I would never, ever try to attempt anything stupid that again. And
that is that very second. That is you saying, "I want to live."
Yeah,
and I can even hear it in your voice, like when you just said that it's like the passion of, I'm not going to feel that way again. I deserve happiness. This is, and then you start and then that's when the self-pity, you decide to fuck it all off, and then you get down to, right, this is what I'm going to do now. If I'm going to live, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. I'm going to live the happiest life that I can live. Would that resonate with you?
Yeah. It's an incredible feeling, because all of the emptiness gets replaced with a sudden. It's a very sudden, and people who will know me at around this time in my life, it was a very sudden need to improve others. So I all of a sudden almost dedicated my life to helping other people, because I felt like that was my purpose. I felt like that was my need, that was my desire, that was the one thing that was keeping me going. And one of the first acts, I remember this so clearly, one of the first acts I ever did after that moment of clarity, was I rang up the local hospital, and I spoke to the children's ward, and I said, how do I buy toys and bring it to the kids there? How do I do that? And they said, well, no one does that, so please don't do it. And I said, no, you don't understand. I need to do this. This is something that and they said, well, we don't really have people bringing us stuff. So, and then we were chatting for a little bit, and they ended up saying, okay, well, bring it down, because they didn't. I just don't think they thought I was being real. They said, bring down, make sure it's wipeable, make sure it's washable, and it's something that we can disinfect. And I said, even if you give them toys to kids after they finish surgery, after they finish something, and they go home, at least it's something there that I can say that I've given something back. And now let's just bear in mind, looking back on it, I had no money. I was in college. I worked 3 jobs. I had no money. I had no reason to. I didn't have savings. I didn't have a trust fund. I didn't have anything. And this burning passion to just help other people was so overwhelming. I put everyone else, everything else before me, before that. And I spent almost every pound that I had in B&M. And there was me and someone else who went and did it. And we got 2, I think it was like 3 bin bags full of wipeable toys from B&M. And like I said, I almost emptied my bank account to do it, and we took it. And that feeling when I dropped it off, it was just overwhelming pride, an overwhelming sense of, yes, this is why I'm here, this is what I was meant to do, this feeling is this is why I'm here, this is the whole reason for me to be here. And ever since that moment, ever since that act, that what I did, and afterwards, I've always dedicated myself to, if you see someone in trouble, I will always do my absolute best to help them out. And
yeah, you've like done a great job of helping me out over the years since I was struggling. Like, you were one of the first people that, obviously, we've got a great group of mates. But particularly, obviously, when we're talking about like anxious thoughts and depressed thoughts, you were one of the first people that sort of said, like, sort of explained it to me in a way where I was like, right, okay, this guy understands what I'm going through now. Do you know what I mean? Because, and also, I want you to just go back to what you said about the children's ward. It makes me feel really warm because, like, at one stage of my life, that the children's ward was like a second home to me, and stuff like that. It's like even as a sibling, I'd play with them, you know what I mean, and just try and take my mind off. And they can never get enough kindness around that ward, mate. And as dark as that ward sounds, it really isn't. It's full of trauma, but it's also full of like people that are in the worst situations possible, but are so full of life. Do you know what I mean? Such as my sister, which is when I say, like, if you go down there and you see that people are suffering with all these kinds of things, but they're so happy, it kind of puts a different perspective on life. Do you know what I mean? Because you're thinking, well, they haven't got much at all, but they're so happy. And it kind of also goes back to what you were saying, again, about having no money. In those situations, you realise, you had no money, but you had your life. You had survived this horrendous suicidal attempt.
I didn't care.
So forget the fact that you had no money. You had life. So if you've got life, you've got everything. You know what I mean? It really has no value. Yeah, money's great for paying bills and stuff, but the main thing is that you had life. And I think at that particular moment you thought, well, at the end of the day, I can work something out. I can afford somehow to get toys. Do you know what I mean? 10, 20, 30 quid from somewhere, whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is I've got life. And that's the thing to I think that would be, if anyone's going to take anything away from the podcast, would you say that would be it? Like, that life is so precious, and no matter how down or depressed or suicidal you may feel, it's not worth it at all. Just like listen to Jack talking about the regret, and that's obviously going to happen in 100% of cases. Would you say that?
Yeah.
And you don't want to do something that you would regret, like Jack. And luckily, like, if you look at Jack, he's literally a living example that you can change.
I am incredibly lucky to still be here.
Exactly. And he can literally now, like, you know what I mean? He's got such a strong mind now. You wouldn't, looking back, if you saw him in person and spoke to him, you wouldn't think that. You know what I mean? You wouldn't think that at one point in his life he had to go through that, but the fact is that's what made him who he is today. It's part of his journey, it's part of his story, and part of the reason why he likes helping people so much. I love the fact that you've got this need and this power to sort of help people, because it's a real, you know what I mean? Like, you've got to, I feel the same way. Like, I love helping people. It's such a good way to sort of, because I think when you've been down that route where you feel at your lowest, you don't want anyone else to feel like that, do you? So you want to sort of emit your knowledge, and I suppose that's why we do the podcast, really, because if people are feeling like, with me and Jack, we've both sort of gone through different things. I've been through trauma, he's been through trauma, but I've been through more of the anxiety side, whereas obviously Jack has gone through a lot of the depressive side, which is what made us such a good combination of why we came together. Do you know what I mean? Because we can both sort of specialise.
How morbid that sounds.
No, I don't think it might sound morbid, but I think the truth is that, like,
it's hilarious.
I don't want anyone to feel as anxious as I did, and if they do feel as anxious as I did, I want to give them some knowledge. So what would I tell myself 5 years ago if I could tell myself something You know what I mean? It's kind of like that.
Yeah. I want to give people advice. If you're ever feeling, and I'm gonna give some that right now while I still in my head. If you ever resonate with anything that I said about my story, about my journey at that point in time, because I've still got there's something else happens to me. If you resonate with that hopelessness, that feeling of I just wanted to end, I challenge you to do something. I challenge you to go to something like a children's ward, go to something like a homeless shelter, go and just offer your time. That's all you have to do. I beg, if you feel like you're worth nothing, go there and offer a conversation, and you'll find that you are worth so much. If you speak to homeless, to troubled, to anyone who's having a real tough time, and if you just offer an ear, that's all you have to do. You just have to be someone that listens.
Yeah.
You don't even have to say anything. Just listen to people. Give them something to give their problems to. And if you can do that, then you're worth something. And it gives you that sense of, oh my God, there's a reason for me to be here. I challenge you to do that and not feel that sense. Try it. If you feel like you're worthless, like you're hopeless, go and offer yourself. Go and offer. Yourself. Go and offer an ear. Go and offer toys like I did. Go and give something back. Give your time, and that feeling that you get, it will ignite something in you that will to just chase it more, because that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened to me. And people who've absolutely been at their lowest will never ever want anyone else to experience that. And I will go for the rest of my life trying to make sure that no one else will experience that. And one thing that I found so fucking interesting and so sad at the same time is there was a guy that I watched on YouTube talk about how his son took his own life, and the note that he left said, "Tell my story." And the father now goes around the world speaking to other fathers to talk about how to help with their children with mental health. And one of the exercises he gets them to do is he'll say, "All of you put your heads down and close your eyes." And he asks a few questions like, who has ever felt negative thoughts? Who has ever been bullied? Who has ever thought about suicide? Who has ever thought about self-harm? Who has ever hated themselves? Put your hand up. And he asks the questions sequentially. Every single father in that room put their hands up to one of those questions at some point. Every single father had either been bullied, had either had suicidal thoughts, had thought about self-harm, had done something so severe and so traumatic. And he asked them afterwards, he said, "Everyone put your head up, open your eyes and look around you. Look how every single person has got their hands in the air." And the second question he asked is, "Have you ever opened up to your children about this?" And every single one of them said no.
And this was all men? All
men.
I think with men, it's particularly, we've been brought up to sort of, when you watch, well, just with all the stuff that you watch growing up and that, you're taught that you're supposed to be this manly person, aren't you? Big boys don't cry and all that kind of stuff. And I know obviously it's no different obviously with women in terms of suicide or anything like that. But I think particularly if you're a man, there's a lot of shame in sort of wanting to speak out or feeling like you should speak out. Too many people keep it to themselves, whereas if they'd just explained and spoken to anyone, then, you know, it could be different today, and there would be less suicides. And
If you are feeling this way, if you're feeling these emotions, if you've got a single coping mechanism, whether that's watching wrestling videos, whether that's watching, if you've got any kind of knowledge that you can share it with someone. Share it with a teenager who's going through a hard time. Share it with someone who's just lost a parent. Share it with anyone who is going through a hard time, because maybe you will save their life.
100%, man, 100%. That's what it's all about. It's about speaking out and about feeling like... That's why I suppose we've done the podcast, is we want people to feel like they can actually speak to someone, or even if they don't want to speak to someone, they can just listen to someone that they resonate with. That's not even speaking out. And we're always available to message. I would bet, like you say, Jack, I would beg anyone feeling the way that Jack was back 5 years ago to message us, and we would be the first ones to sit there and spend hours talking to you. Do you know what I mean? And I always feel like one conversation could change with the right person, can change your life, can change your whole perspective. Like Jack says, going down to a children's ward, you would see that, like, again, how happy these kids actually are. Like, you'd think that they'd all be sad. No, it's not the case at all. They're all goddamn the happiest souls that I've seen in my goddamn life.
They are.
The perspective that you see when you go there. And I think when I was going through my darkest times, I forgot that. And now I'm good again. I remember that, and I celebrate it. And it's not all about the sadness. It's about, like, when you see stuff like that, it's impossible as a human to not, like, get your spirits get lifted up when you see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's sad but amazing at the same time.
Everyone thinks that it's such a sad place, but it really isn't. No. It's the complete opposite. There's so much hope.
I will tell you right now that my sister was the happiest human being that I have ever met in my entire life. And at some point down the topics in the podcast, I am going to share some more stories. But the takeaway for me is that, even you got to think, even though she had so many physical issues, her happiness was just up here. And obviously, I'm not saying that if you're fine that you shouldn't be depressed. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying just try sometimes, if you are feeling like shit and suicidal, to just get a different perspective. Just, you owe it to yourself.
Yeah. So one thing that came about from me discovering this was, obviously, as I said, this dying need to help other people. And I went through a stage of, I was doing anything to help people. I was reaching out to people that I know had suffered with depression. I reach out to people and I'd just say, shall we talk? Do you want to have a conversation? And I started to develop a relationship with someone where we were talking a lot about struggles, about I know you've been through this tough time, so let's just try and talk it through. And unfortunately, that person took their own life. And that was incredibly difficult for me, because the reason I think it was so difficult is because I've dedicated so much of my soul to helping other people that the moment that I couldn't help someone, I felt the same hopelessness and I felt the same helplessness as I felt when I'd just done it myself. I felt oh my God, you did what you tried and it didn't work. And experiencing it from the other side of the coin is heart-wrenching, because I've experienced it on both sides. And when that person took their life, you see a wave of pain in people, because someone described it as when you, that pain that you feel before you're about to take your life, that pain doesn't go away. The pain just shares. The pain that you've got, imagine it being a weight on your head. That weight just gets dispersed, and you're giving it to the closest people around you. So if them pills never came out of my body, that weight would have gone to my parents, it would have gone to my brother, and it would have gone to my closest friends, and they would have carried that weight for the rest of their life. The weight never goes, and the weight is with me right now. The weight is still with me. It's something that never goes.
That's an amazing analogy, man. Like, it never just disappears. You're just sharing it around, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is the last thing that you ever want to do. And for anyone who's carrying that weight of someone else, I feel that pain. And we will carry this weight. And we will build the muscle to carry this weight.
Yeah. And that's
because I can guarantee I am not sharing my weight with it, because no one else could take this weight.
Yeah. It's amazing that you're in such a different mindset now, and I know when stuff like that happens and you see friends around you doing stuff like that, I feel like we don't really know everything about the human mind, so everyone has different thoughts, different like genetic makeup and stuff. But what I can say is that we're all, as humans, we can all be there for each other. We can always offer a helping hand. We can't ultimately change what someone's going to do behind closed doors, but we can damn well try. You know what I mean? And we can always be there for people, and always make sure that they feel like they can speak out and talk to us, or talk to the family, talk to the friends. That's what we do. We're humans. If we haven't got love, we haven't got anything. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's really, really important to know that you can speak out, and you are worthy, and you do deserve to live.
Yeah. I don't think you could have finished the podcast any better, mate. I think that was
Nice one, man.
Fucking brilliant way to finish. For anyone out there, if you've listened to this, if you want to ask us any questions, if there's anything that you want to know further, reach out to us. Reach out to us any way that you can, on Instagram, on our personal social medias, any way that you want to talk to us, feel free.
Yeah.
Because we are here.
Yeah, we're always here. You know what I mean? This is what, exactly what Jack's explained, that we want to help people. This is what we're trying to do. You know what I mean? So if you interact with us and we can help you in any way, it doesn't have to be suicide. It could be anxiousness, depression, anything. Just a chat. Do you know what I mean? That you might feel too ashamed to speak. Just speak to us. Do you know what I mean? We keep it confidential and all that kind of stuff. And we're just two former sufferers of what you may be going through. So yeah.
And we leave it how we always do. Please like, subscribe, share this with someone, anyone. Just let's try and give it to someone who you think will appreciate it, because that person might know someone who's struggling, and this podcast might save someone's life.
Yeah.
So please just give it to someone who you think will use it and will give it to someone else.
Definitely.
And finally, check up on your strong friend.